Regardless of the type of variations that you may see, all mobility devices and aids must be properly secured, and the 4 down, 3 around is your key to doing so. Before you do that, remind yourselves of the importance of eliminating all distractions while doing this. As mentioned before, you must stay focused on thoroughly completing each one of these steps. Missing just one step could result in a serious injury to your customer. While doing this process, avoid talking to the customer so you do not become distracted.
If you become distracted, take a pause and reset yourself on the procedures for proper securement. If for any reason you become distracted in the process, start the process over again. Do not rush through it.
So without distractions, let's start by reviewing the steps to properly secure 4 down first.
The 4-point tie-down provides stability in a moving vehicle. It also prevents the mobility device from tilting, tipping, or twisting during normal driving or crashes. Position the customer onto the securement area. Center the mobility device between the floor attachments and set the brakes. If it's a powered mobility device, set the brakes and power it down so the device can't move. Start by securing the 2 front floor anchors in the floor track. And don't forget, make sure to bend with your legs as we reviewed in our injury prevention lesson. Next, secure the 2 rear floor anchors in the floor track. Attach the straps as high on the chair as possible, but no higher than the seat. The ideal angle for securement straps is 45 degrees out from the chair frame. If you're using a cam locking system, attach the front straps first to the solid junction of the wheelchair frame. The rear straps should be attached to a solid junction of the frame just below seat level on a basic wheelchair. The rear straps should be parallel with rear wheels or slightly flared out, while the front straps should flare out slightly for lateral stability. Route each strap in a straight line. Do not bend it around a wheel or other object. Do not attach the securement straps to the wheels or any removable parts of the device, such as armrests or footrests. These could easily break during a crash and don't provide maximum stability. Do not attach securement straps to the folding cross brace of a standard wheelchair or armrest brackets. These could also easily bend or break during a crash and also do not provide maximum stability. Use the webbing loop straps to secure around devices where there isn't an obvious place to set the hook. Tighten all straps, but don't over-tighten. A ratchet-type tightener could easily bend a standard wheelchair frame. The final step is to test the mobility device to be sure you can't move it more than 2 inches in any direction. This must be done as the final step in your process, every time. When in doubt, contact dispatch. If you're not sure you're properly securing your customer, call dispatch or your supervisor for help.
It's important to understand that not all mobility devices are wheelchairs. There's a variety of devices people use for moving around. One device that will have special consideration is a 3-wheel scooter. The same 4 down, 3 around securement technique must be followed. It's important that the process is completed without any distractions, as every step must be executed accurately and thoroughly. Before we review the special considerations of performing the 4 down, 3 around securement technique on a 3-wheel scooter, let's first talk about some of the hazards of a 3-wheel scooter. Since a 3-wheeled scooter has one less wheel, a smaller wheelbase, and a smaller platform than a 4-wheel scooter or wheelchair, stability can be an issue at times, especially when traveling in a vehicle. For that reason, if a customer is using a 3-wheel scooter, you as the professional operator should ask him or her to transfer to a seat, and the empty scooter should be secured. However, in accordance with the ADA, if the customer wishes to ride the scooter, you must allow them to do so. Although this is allowed by the ADA, explain to the customer that it's not safe to do so and that you'd be happy to help them to a seat for their safety. Here are some ways to effectively communicate to your customer the importance of transferring to a seat if they're using a 3-wheel mobility device.
Before I secure your scooter, Please let me assist you in transferring to a seat for your safety. For your safety, I highly recommend it. Since scooters are not made to be sat on while riding in a bus, they are more prone to tipping and causing potential injury to the rider. I have seen examples of riders getting injured by electing to stay on their scooter and don't want you to be at risk for an injury. As mentioned, under the ADA, if your customer does not want to transfer to a seat, you cannot require it.
As mentioned under the ADA, if your customer does not want to transfer to a seat, you can't require it. When you're ready to secure the scooter, you'll follow many of the same procedures for a four-wheel device, with just a few modifications.
Center the mobility device between the floor attachments. Set the brakes or power down the mobility device. The front securement will include a webbing loop strap that will hook around the central drive shaft and attach to the two front floor anchors. The front securements should be narrowly set to help stabilize the device. The two rear securements should flare out in the back at a 45-degree angle. Tighten all straps, but do not over-tighten. Test the mobility device to be sure you cannot move it more than 2 inches in any direction. If the customer remains on the device, secure your customer with the lap belt and shoulder harness. And again, when in doubt, call dispatch or your supervisor.
If you encounter other power mobility devices, ask the customer all the questions that you need so that you can understand the device and can provide them a safe, reliable, and enjoyable trip. And you should properly secure the customer using the lap and shoulder restraint. When in doubt, call dispatch or your supervisor. Anyone who encounters contamination with blood or other potentially infectious bodily fluids or materials contaminated by them is at risk for bloodborne pathogens, and that includes professional transit operators like you. In this lesson, we're going to explore the ways that bloodborne pathogens can spread between people. Bloodborne pathogens are transmitted when blood or bodily fluids from an infected person enters another person's body via needle sticks, human bites, cuts, abrasions, or mucous membranes.
There are 4 conditions that must be present for transmission of bloodborne pathogens to occur. A pathogen is present. There is enough of the pathogen present to cause disease. A person is susceptible and not immune to the pathogen. The pathogen passes through the correct entry site. The pathogen may enter the bloodstream through an opening in the skin or through the mouth, nose, or eyes. The main ways that a bloodborne pathogen is spread is by direct contact. That's when infected blood or body fluid from one person enters another person's body at a correct entry site, such as infected blood splashing in the eye. Indirect contact is when a person's skin touches an object that contains the blood or body fluid of an infected person, such as picking up soiled dressings contaminated with an infected person's blood or body fluid. Other potential contaminated objects could include gauze, towels, bandages, needles, or syringes. Respiratory droplet transmission happens when a person inhales droplets from an infected person, such as through a cough or sneeze. Vector-borne transmission is when a person's skin is penetrated by an infectious source, such as a bite.
Exposure to blood or other potentially infectious materials can happen by contact with mucous membranes, such as with eyes, nose, or mouth. Contact with open or abraded skin, like cuts, scrapes, sores, and so on. Percutaneous exposure, including needle sticks or puncture wounds from contaminated sharps, such as glass. There are also many ways that bloodborne pathogens are not transmitted. For example, bloodborne pathogens are not transmitted by touching an infected person or by using the same equipment as an infected person.
Possible exposure situations for transit workers can include rendering first aid and/or CPR, assisting passengers that may be bleeding after a treatment or become ill on board your transit vehicle, accidents that may involve traumatic injury.
In any situation where there's a risk of exposure to blood or bodily fluids, you're required to follow our standard precautions to help prevent the spread of bloodborne pathogens and keep yourself safe. In our next lesson, we'll discuss how to protect yourself from bloodborne pathogens.